Growing up, I loved nothing but to eat the flaming hot chips and drink juice. As a kid, eating healthy never crossed my mind. I wasn't taught to eat healthy, nor did I know what eating healthy was. My little brother is suffering from being overweight and it scares me. Now I can't stand to see anyone eating some of these unhealthy things.
We went out and looked at quality of produce. So there were 60 corner stores in Austin that we found. But of those, about half of them, or maybe even more, had rotting produce. And our quality measure, quality is kind of a real subjective thing. But our quality measure was like, is it rotting? The chance of it being really bad was pretty high. We did a focus group in Austin, and there was a woman who came, turned out she was from North Lawndale, and she said, I've been to Dominic's in other neighborhoods, in the white neighborhood, she said. By the produce, I've seen little recipes, and she's seen like unusual fruits, but I've never seen that in my neighborhood. And she was comparing 2 different Dominic's. So she understood quality, she understood people talk about the smell, the lighting. What is offered in the black community is different from what is and not as nice as what is offered in white communities.
I think that some communities have more access than other communities as far as healthy food goes. I know for me, I can just walk down to the grocery store down the street and pick up the things that I need.
You have to look at it from an environmental approach, and then help the individual have choice and access to be successful to healthy habits.
So our goal is to do a couple things with the Green Tomato Cafe. One is that we feel like healthy communities are places where people can gather, safe places where people can get together and be neighbors, and we don't have many places like that in our neighborhood. So we wanted a place where people could gather and just have healthy conversation, a safe place. And then second, we wanted to influence the food culture. So if you go to the Green Tomato Cafe, you can find quinoa salad, something that's different, in our neighborhood. You won't find that very often. So trying to introduce a few new foods to the community so that we're encouraging people to think about food, to ask questions, and to think about trying new things that might be healthier.
When you buy food that is grown locally and it still is containing a lot of its nutrients, and you see that it's not like a big, huge farm that is maybe spraying chemicals on their food or using lots of resources to farm. You see it's like people that are in your community that are growing this, where it comes from. And I think when you put that money back into your community, it helps the community for sure.
So some chemicals that people feel are necessary, once again, to resist pests, to resist weather. But in general, I think they should not do harm to the environment, either to the soil, to other animals or other plants, and then they definitely shouldn't do harm to the people who consume them. So I think, once again, looking at a more organic model is the way to go. But I don't think that we should give an animal steroids that might have an adverse effect on once again, the sustainable nature of the environment and also people who are consuming those particular steroids.
Nearly all the food advertisements viewed by children are for products that are high in fat, sugar, and sodium. Most are low in fiber. Somehow I feel that healthy eating should be taught to young children and also advertised throughout the education system. As a culture and society, we should make healthy eating more of our priority.
Or you think about the United States, we spend the most money on healthcare. And all these people that are sick and all the money that gets dumped into trying to make these people healthy. And the whole reason that they got sick in the first place is because they didn't know what to eat, or because they were taught to eat the wrong stuff and they developed that habit of, I need to eat this is normal, this is good for me, when in actuality for most of their lives they've been eating things that have been making them more sick.
So then, while young people are also learning these other life skills, they should be taught how to eat healthy so they can use that when later in life and when they become adults, possess those same life skills to be healthy and then pass it down.
I see a student walks to school with like a little plastic bag full of a bunch of bags of chips and some juice and stuff like that. Almost every single thing in that bag has those artificial chemicals in it And that's going to be like the red dye 40 and the yellow 5.
Schools are a great environment to teach some of those skills like healthy eating, physical activity.
I have a rule in my classroom where I'm like, if you want to eat in class, that's fine, but it's got to be something that I approve. So if you want to chew on a bag of carrots, that's cool.
So let's look at an apple, for example. You can go from a whole apple, you have fiber, you have healthy carbohydrates in it, which turns into natural sugar. And then you look at a baked apple pie, now you're adding processed flour, you're adding sugar, you put preservatives. So when you look at the nutritional content of an apple versus an apple pie, the apple is going to be more nutrient rich versus the apple pie is going to be less nutrient rich.
And that student's walking around and is consuming those, and it has to be having some kind of an effect on them.
Obviously, we're overeating, eating the wrong foods. And why would that be? I think we've learned to love foods that taste good, that at least taste good to us.
We are consuming foods that could seriously harm us. And some of these foods, there are very dangerous chemicals that cause very serious health problems throughout a consumer's life. Things that could knowingly hurt us should not be put into stores and sold to us. Nearly 40% of a children's diet come from added sugars and unhealthy fats.
Could we make some kind of direct connection between, oh, this is what you have been eating all today, and here's how you're feeling now? So if there is at least some evidence or some correlation between that stuff and behavior or health problems.
In general, our federal food policy has been based around a cheap food model.
When you're pumping all these chemicals into an animal, it has to be affecting the cells in some way, and I can't imagine that animal is going to be very healthy.
We pushed since the New Deal intensive farming that's really relatively low cost, and there's been some good things that have come out of that. There's more protein is cheaper than certainly was before, and
definitely rates of cancer have gone up in the last 100 years, and so has the amount of meat that the human being is consuming. It's like putting drugs into our students, into our kids, into ourselves. And it'll be interesting to see what happens if they actually taking those artificial colors out. Will there be a change in some of the different health issues that have been connected to that?
It does a lot of things for young people. It definitely could affect your growth. You won't be able to grow, maximize whatever it is, as far as physical development, neurological development. It affects your productivity. Kind of garbage in, garbage out. If you're not getting the right foods and you're getting the right energy, you're not able to be as productive. And then once again, it could affect your mood, it could, affect your health ultimately, maybe not now, but definitely down the road.
We all deserve to have an equal chance at feeling good and at being healthy and at being happy, and everybody wants that. So I think this is really an issue that everybody faces.
I think really there's an awful lot of skill that gets overlooked too. So while I think education is important, we still have to do probably more health education.
Because every day we are all faced with the choice of what foods to put into our body. And it affects us, all the time.
And then sometimes the organic or natural food products tend to be a little bit more pricier or hard to get. So I think we need to look at food production in a way where we can get good quality food.
But if you look at the pattern of race and you look at the pattern of food deserts, they follow pretty closely from one another. I think there's these kind of inequalities all up and down the food system.
I think there's some brands now in the United States that are taking the artificial food coloring out of their products. And I wonder why, everybody doesn't.
So I think everybody's responsible. We just have to all create the conversation.
Well, I know Europe was one of the first continents or places that made the red dye 40 illegal. You know, if the food that I ate this morning is containing a lot of chemicals, my body's got to work extra hard to find a place to put those chemicals.
We're encouraging people to think about food, to ask questions, and to think about trying new things that might be healthier. So our goal is to influence culture towards a culture of health.